today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Gina Boehler, Executive Director and founder of Korean Canine Rescue, a nonprofit no-kill 501c dog rescue organization located in both the U.S. and South Korea. So Korean Canine Rescue facilities in Bundang, South Korea, houses dogs rescued from dog meat farms, high-kill shelters, slaughterhouses, and strays. They practice safe quarantine, provide vaccinations, and carry out health screenings for each of their rescued dogs. They provide hope to rescuers and activists alike whose dogs would otherwise have little chance of survival without adoption. The adoption rate in Korea is less than 15%, and that was really surprising to me. I thought it was a little bit higher than that. Mm-hmm. But it is significantly higher in the United States, where they adopt most of their dogs out. Over 2,000 dogs to date have been rescued and successfully adopted through Korean Canine Rescue. In New York City, they are foster-based rescue. Their dogs are crate trained, wear backups on their collars, and eat a healthy, fresh diet. They spare no expense on the well-being of their dogs, even if it means a hefty food or vet bill. Each dog has significant needs, can also have significant needs, and they deserve to be met as any dog, would need to get their second chance at a good life. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Gina.
Thank you for having me.
And Gina is accompanied today on the couch with her dog that was rescued from Virginia.
Yes, he was rescued. I think it's West Virginia from a backyard breeder. He's what's called a double dappled dachshund. So sometimes they breed dachshunds with the spots.
Yes,
a white dachshund with blue eyes. But
oh my God,
in the process of doing that, they are born deaf and blind.
No.
I got him when he was 5.
He can't hear. Oh my God, deaf and blind, can't see, can't hear. Oh, he's a cutie. And what's his name is Dina, I think?
Cena, Cena.
Oh, Tina. Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he's so cute. What a sweetie. And you've had him for many years?
Oh, yeah, since he was 5 years old.
And he's now a little senior?
17.
17. Oh, my God. God bless you for giving him a good life, Those dogs often get passed up, obviously,
Yeah, he's given me so much, and he's inspired me to, start Korean Canine. And that's really where my start began, is with Cena.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, I was going to go through, some opening questions, but, you've already answered one of them. But I'm a little bit curious because you are Korean. Were you born in Korea, or were you born in New York? I think you're based in New York?
Yes. Well, I was born in Mokpo, which is tiny, right in the southern part of Korea, almost the very southern part. Here comes partner with our dogs.
Yes, the faithful partner walking the dogs. Are we able to meet these dogs?
Yeah, they'll come up and say hello in a minute here.
I mean, it's our lucky day. Good timing.
Come here, Anne. This is Anne.
Anne?
Mm-hmm. And she's a Jack Russell Jindo mix. She's also one of my second adopted dog from Korean Canine.
Oh, well, from Korea. This one is okay. Mm-hmm. Wow.
She came from Asan shelter, and she had babies, and all her babies got adopted in New York. And then she stuck around with me, and I fell in love with her and couldn't let her go. So
I can see why. Oh my gosh, she's so cute. And you have another one with you? Or?
You, Olivia. Come here. Hi, Lovey. And this is Lavia.
Lavia?
Lavia.
Lavia?
Love. And then we just added the Lavia.
Oh, Lavia. Oh, Lavia. Of course. Who would not love ya?
Exactly.
Oh my God. She's a cute little female. What kind of breed would you say? Like, it's a mix, obviously?
She's like a little Spitz mix, a little Japanese Spitz mix.
Oh.
And she actually came in really aggressive. She attacked everybody.
No, she's
She was
so
from
calm
such
now.
shelter too.
Wow.
And then we found out that after we x-rayed her pelvis, that her pelvis was split apart and unable to she was unable to have surgery because it was too late by the time she got here.
Oh,
So she
wow.
kind of lives with just this broken pelvis.
And
And
any idea what happened? Like she was found in what condition?
that she was kicked as a puppy and she never got the
The
doctor
care,
did.
yeah.
Yeah, the vet said some sort of blunt force trauma when she was younger, like a puppy, most likely a kick
Oh,
and
wow.
her pelvis. But she lives this way and she's not in pain. And she walks, she kind of drags her feet around, but she does really good. She's
Oh
been
my God. Oh my God. Like sometimes you hear these stories and you're like, thank you've had her for how long at this point?
so I've had Lovia for about 4 years now, and
Wow.
she came in so aggressive, attacking everybody's feet,
It's
especially.
hard to believe, but I think you've worked your magic on her, clearly. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Love
and
ya. Oh,
she just did not like strangers at all. But
no.
I said this dog is not going to get adopted anytime soon. So me and my partner Nick, we took her in, and she's been ours ever since.
And did you like do you have a lot of experience like as with a dog behaviorist, or did you have to call upon any experts to get her adjusted or
Yeah, I mean, I specialize in training,
okay.
especially with fearful dogs, aggression dogs, trauma dogs, just in general trauma.
Yes,
That's
yes.
like our specialty at Korean Canine. And we really try to build those dogs' confidence and give them,
Wow.
positive experiences with humans as opposed to, what
Yes.
they've experienced before. And they're
Building back their confidence and teaching them what being a dog's all about, because a lot of these dogs never had a normal upbringing, right? So Anne, and then Lavia was a stray. It was found as a stray in Korea, and Anne was found in a shelter of some kind.
Yes,
Or
I'm not sure how she ended up at the shelter, but she was there with and then had her babies there.
oh
And
wow,
she was actually returned 4 times to us after she was adopted here a couple times.
oh,
And after the fourth time, I said, you know what? There's nothing wrong with this dog.
and so like no reason given, or
No,
was
well, there were reasons, but it just didn't seem like it was anything.
legitimate, right?
Well, it didn't seem like it was anything to do with her specifically.
Yes, it was more the people.
Personal issues, and sometimes people get a dog and they mean well,
Yeah,
then they realize that, oh my gosh, this is
it's a
actually
lot of work. Yes.
ability. Yeah.
Yes. Like walking the dog. Yes. I mean, it's all part of it. They're not like, I have a hard time because I work in an office and often hear people like, oh, they crate their dogs all day, or, like they complain, oh, I have to walk the dog. But yes, like, yeah, imagine your life as a dog. You're inside the house all day. And the minute you come home, of course, they want some attention, so
Mhm.
it's in my opinion, it's part of the reward of having a dog is spending time with them and playing. And
Spending
but
time with them and just like making them a part of your family, being a family
of
member.
course,
That's
yeah, that's it. Like for me, my cats, I have 2 cats. I will eventually have a dog. And they are members of my family, and to the point that I actually put them in my will. I was like, I'm not taking any chances. God forbid, should something happen to me and my husband, they are all taken care of.
but that's such a satisfying thing to
Yeah.
know. You probably have a pet trust, right? Some sort of pet trust where if this
Oh, in terms of, oh, no, 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 no. It's more
okay,
that we've designated a person of trust,
uh-huh,
and actually allocated some money and some funding for them to look after them. And if they can't look after them, then to find them a similar family
mhm,
household as us. Meaning lifestyle, very quiet. We're very quiet people. We don't throw parties.
mhm.
And there's nothing wrong with parties, but my cats have been used to a calm environment.
Yeah.
And so I just want to replicate that to the greatest extent possible. And so, yeah, And I think it's important because, recently on social media, there was a case where two dog meat trade survivors had been adopted by a lady in Texas. And she had also adopted other dogs, and she suddenly passed away. I don't know if she was ill or something, but those dogs ended up at a shelter in Texas, high kill shelter. And so
many dogs down there already
exactly. And
over.
luckily, the lady at the shelter, it was brought to a good shelter. Like they take their time and they try to, work as hard as possible to find them a good home. But there's, deadlines and it's over capacity. And so luckily we were able to find them, I think an organization called Two Dog Farms Sanctuary or Rescue.
I think they're down south.
Yes.
They're somewhere down south.
I'm not sure if they're in Texas or Florida, but they decide to take them in, and so we're very, very grateful. But it just goes to show that it's important to think about those things, so
yes, absolutely. And it's also important to be mindful of where you're placing these dogs,
yes,
wise, if
I have a bunch of questions on that, your adoption procedures, because I'm sure it's high priority to find the best homes. So okay, we've established that you were born in Korea, but what made you come to New York? Was it you as an adult, or was it with your family as a child?
As an adult.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, I've been in New York for I would say 25 years.
Oh, okay.
And originally for school purposes. Okay. And but originally I'm from the Portland, Oregon, Vancouver, Washington area. And I came to New York young to go to school, and I just stayed. So it became like
second home.
Yeah, I just felt like home to me.
Wow.
It's
a lot of hustle and bustle in New York, but the people are pretty friendly.
Very well, depends on where you go, but
yeah, not everywhere. Don't be overly friendly with certain people.
But for the most part, I think the animal community here is the best in the world.
Yes, I've heard
people in New York love their dogs and cats and pets.
Oh yes,
family members. If somebody finds a dog on the street, they're the first ones to call as many people as they can and share it on social media.
There's a good community. Yeah. Oh no, I've interviewed a lady who adopted one of the first dogs to come from Korea was Nami Kim, Save Korean Dogs, and that was in the early years. And she is all about her dogs, she will go to extra lengths, but it's good that there are people like that, and except for the bad ones. And so I'm a little bit curious. So you come to study in the United States. Do you want to share what field of study? Was it finance?
No, it was graphic design.
Oh,
and okay. I didn't finish college, but I decided, I want to do something that is not. And then I worked in graphic design after I went to college for about, I would say, 12 years.
Okay.
And I decided that it wasn't for me anymore. No. Because at the same time, I was volunteering at a local animal shelter in Brooklyn called Sean Casey Animal Rescue. And
what is it called?
Sean Casey Animal Rescue.
Oh, yes, I've heard of that. Yeah, it's a really good one, I think. Yeah.
It is. And I was there for about 5 years, volunteering 4 or 5 years.
Wow.
That's really how I started to get this burning desire to be more involved.
Yes. And your love for animals, was it always there? Because, someone who volunteers at an animal shelter, they must have a passion in their hearts for animals. Yeah.
All my life, had dogs all my life.
Oh, wow.
And also lived on a farm in Vancouver, Washington when I was a teenager. So I loved to have we had cows, pigs, chickens,
Oh, wow.
sorts of animals, and I loved caring for them. I loved being around them.
Yeah.
They were pets, by the way.
Oh, yeah, no, because, it could be different type of farm
Yeah.
that,
We'll talk about farms. So
a
like,
small farm. Yeah.
how do you deal with killing? Well, my dad actually had like cows that were pets. So, they
Ooh,
were really intelligent. And then,
that's amazing.
yeah,
Yeah.
I really connect with animals, especially dogs, on a very deep level. I just
Yeah.
feel like, as a person that has had trauma leaving South Korea and coming here because I was adopted. And then I found my family when I was 18, or my family found me when I was 18
Oh my
in the United
God.
States, and then I reconnected with them. So, that
Your
there,
Korean family?
yes, yeah,
Oh, okay. So in
yeah,
Korea, you were adopted in Korea,
right. Mm-hmm. When
Oh,
I was
okay.
4. And then I came here to the United States with my adopted American family, and it was, of course, a culture shock and everything. So then
Oh, wow.
when I was 18, my sister, actually, I have two sisters, older
Okay.
sister in Korea. One passed away, unfortunately,
Mm.
about 7 years ago. But when I was 18, my sister found me in the United States and decided to
Contact you.
me. And it
Oh,
could have been a
wow.
better age for me because this is when I was like, trying to
Curious. Yeah.
like, all these things come to mind.
Wow.
And then I went back to visit them, and I go back every year to see them, and it's been great.
And you said at the beginning it's a small town in the south of Korea. So like
Right on the water.
what is it called again?
Mokpo, Mokpo.
Okay, I'm definitely gonna map it out, and show people because I love, doing that. Like in the podcast, I often include, graphics, well, like graphics, like videos, some footage, some samples. So we'll see exactly where you're from.
Oh, okay,
And
that'll be interesting.
yes, and so you connected with your family, your original, birth family, I suppose, and
Yes. And
yeah.
then so since then I go back and forth. We're in regular communication. I kind of
Mm.
have the best of both worlds.
And you speak Korean, obviously, because you grew up in Korea. Like even if
I
it wasn't
don't
adopt.
speak fluent Korean.
Oh
No.
no.
I can understand some words, but I use a lot of translating apps. And
Okay.
I'm
And your adoptive family in Korea, were they Americans or were they?
uh in the United States.
Yeah, your adoptive family.
Yes, they were. They were American. Actually,
Oh,
they were
okay.
Canadians like you.
Canadians.
I moved to America.
We're good people.
You are good people. You are very
Yes, and I do say or like all the typical things that you expect from Canada.
exactly. But
So they spoke to you in English, and even though you were being raised in Korea, they would speak to you mainly in English, or
only in English.
only? Okay, they don't speak Korean. Okay.
Right, exactly. So,
Oh,
I mean, it
okay.
kind of goes back to, you asked me what my connection was with dogs.
Yes.
I feel like, since I went into this American family that had all these animals and pets that, uh, I connected with them
Yeah.
because, there was like a cultural shock there, and I needed support.
Something to focus
Yeah.
on. Yeah.
Yeah, I needed something to connect with and occupy my
Feel
time,
nurtured.
culture
Yeah.
shock and everything like that. So because I didn't come as a baby, I came when I was like 4. So I remembered a
That's
lot of
that's a
things.
lot. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
lot to adjust. And I feel you because for me, I developed this love and passion for animals more later on in life. Not that I never cared for animals before, but I never had this kind of passion. Like right now, I would say at my age, it started like a few years ago. I think it started really when I adopted my first cat. That's
Okay.
when I realized that, oh my God, animals are amazing. Because I
Mhm.
would have a bad day and I would give my cat a hug, and it was like therapeutic.
Mhm.
And they have such just beautiful energy, and they're just pure, like pure loving beings, and yeah, it just went on from there. It got stronger and stronger. And when I learned about this cause, the dog cat meat trade, it really, I got invested right away because I had to understand, why would anyone do that? I mean, we do that to animals all over the world, like for our dinner plate. But anyways, we'll go through the questions, but I do relate. I think I relate more to animals than humans. Maybe you feel a bit similar.
I feel the same way. I actually, feel like when I look at my 3 dogs and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe how lucky I am,
Yes, yeah, there's like definitely a bond.
Yeah.
Okay, so in what year, so you have a love and passion for animals, you're volunteering at a shelter, and at what point do you decide, okay, I'm done with graphic design, what am I going to do? Like, how does this form in your mind, like Korean Canine Rescue? Where does it come from?
It came from me just seeing a documentary on HBO, and I can't even remember what the name of the documentary was, but it was about I believe Southeast Asia, and they were boiling a dog alive. And
was it Yulin Dog Meat Festival that kind of footage?
Well, this was in 2017.
Oh, okay.
2016, maybe 2016.
Okay, so a graphic documentary.
Yeah. And I heard that they did that in Korea too. So that just really triggered something in me. And I'm like, what? I'm an animal lover. I'm a volunteer. I'm a rescuer. Because at the time, what I was doing was I was rescuing dogs from high kill shelters down south and stray dogs down south in Arkansas, Oklahoma, Tennessee.
Texas, probably.
I didn't do Texas. Texas was really far for me.
Okay. A little bit too far.
Yeah, it's really far. I take my hat off to the rest of the Pure Pull Dog for Texas. It's a long drive. But I was making connections down there and with local rescuers down there and bringing the dogs up to Sean Casey. So I would be driving up like one time we drove up like 100 dogs. So it was a lot.
Oh my Lord. And all this volunteer basis.
All of this was volunteer. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like besides
you're dedicated.
Besides my job, I was helping,
oh my God.
And
you would sleep when you could.
Yeah. And I was much younger and I had,
the stamina,
more energy.
Yeah, absolutely. I get it.
So then I saw that documentary. I'm like, I have to do something. Like I can't just like sit here and watch. It
shocked you. Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm used to rescuing animals, and I wanted to, especially in my home country, find out what was going on. So I kind of just like opened up all my contacts that I knew, everything. And I actually went my first trip after I had watched this documentary was to Korea, was to actually Nami Kim's shelter at the time.
Nami Kim saved Korean dogs? Okay.
Had just opened up her shelter in Gimpo, which was close to the border of North Korea. And I went to visit her shelter, and I remember walking about, I want to say 500 feet down the road. She's like, I need to show you something. We walked 500 feet down the road. And right there, smack in the end of the road, was a dog meat farm housing 200 dogs.
Oh, wow.
Just 500 feet from her shelter. And that was the first time I ever saw a dog meat farm.
Yeah. And were you able to see anything? Because often they have big gates and like walls. Well,
this was one that Nami was in the process of shutting down.
Oh, okay.
But with, I know this question will come up later on about what we do with dog meat farms, but a lot of times when you're dealing with a number of dogs, say 200, you can't just extract all the dogs and bring them somewhere. There's no place to house these dogs.
Of course, you have to think of the end game, like you have to have a place and resources and budget for all these dogs.
So much money and so many manpower and organizational planning of quarantine and things like that. So normally what happens, and the same thing with what Nami's organization did, was they kept those dogs there in the cages, but fed them, gave them clean bedding and fresh water until they could move them.
Oh, okay. So she was allowed to come in and kind of start taking care of them. Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah, it was just the beginning stages that I had seen it. So not everything was in place yet.
Yeah.
But it was like a work in progress that took months and months. Just doesn't happen overnight because of the resources in Korea.
Of course.
Yeah. So when I took a walk 500 feet down, that's the first time I saw this dog meat farm, and it was pretty operational at the time.
Okay.
And I think that, I was trying to record, but my hand was shaking so bad that I couldn't really focus in because I was more just like scared.
Yeah.
And I had never seen dogs in such depravity before. So for me, it was a shock to see it in person.
Yeah.
But also equally important was that, like me as a vegan as well, I wanted to bear witness to what was actually happening and absorb it and try to understand that this is reality.
Yeah.
Really what's happening.
Yeah.
And the reality of it is that when you go into Korean countrysides, you're going to see these things 100 feet in front of you, or you're going to hear dogs bark.
It's pretty much everywhere, right? Like in the countryside, there's a lot of these little backyard farms. I mean, 300 dogs, a little bit more than a backyard farm, but yeah. It's a little bit everywhere. It's like, like you'll see it, not so much in Seoul, I suppose, definitely not in Seoul. Like, I don't think there's any slaughterhouses in Seoul. And they've done away with the markets, like live dog markets. But yeah, no, I've heard the same thing, that it's pretty prevalent. Yeah.
Yeah. So this was 2016, and things have changed a lot in Korea since then. But yeah, anytime you would hear a dog bark in the countryside, like dogs barking, you'd be like, oh, So like you said, you're going to stumble across these things. It was just like, wow, your shelter is right here, and then this farm is here. And it's just, the reality of the situation kicks in, that there's a lot of work to be done.
Yes. And I guess the dog farm owner, he was amicable to the idea of, letting go of his farm. And like, I guess Nami Kim had negotiated their release of, eventually.
Yeah, she's a very good negotiator. So.
Oh, she's good. Yeah, I know. I've spoken to Nami. So she's a woman of character, very determined. And, she gets the job done, like she's very, very, I was very impressed with her because her English is actually incredibly good. I was like not expecting that.
I think she lived in Canada for a while, so
she did.
Her, okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Another great Canadian.
You guys keep checking off the boxes there.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so that's how you got the inspiration. So you saw this documentary, and then you actually go visit Korea, and you're quickly trying to put the pieces together and reach out to your contacts in Korea. And I guess your idea was to start a shelter in Korea, or was that first, or was it New York first?
So I was volunteering for another rescue, a Korean rescue, and I decided that I had started adopting dogs just from various rescues from Korea. So there are so many heroes in South Korea, and activists and rescuers. But at the time, in 2016, nobody had an outlet for these dogs to go to. They would rescue these dogs in Korea.
Right.
And then these women would have 100 dogs in their house.
Oh, wow. I've seen some amazing, Good Samaritans that take these dogs in, and it overtakes their home, and it becomes overwhelming. Yeah.
Yeah. And at the time, there was no outlet. Where's the hope?
Yeah.
Nobody's taking these dogs. Nobody's providing an outlet for these dogs to go to.
Oh, wow.
And I knew that there was a possibility, just based on the community, just bringing dogs up from the south to the north in the United States, that there was an opportunity for a massive amount of Korean dogs to come in and find homes too. There's enough dogs for everybody in New York. And there's
Oh,
enough.
yes. Like the United States is a big, big place for that, because we're a dog loving culture. I mean, I say we in North America, I would
In
say,
general, North America, right?
but United States is much bigger than Canada, but still, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, there is people for these dogs. There's no
Hmm.
shortage of people for dogs. That's
Yeah.
just fact in the northern New England states. So,
Yeah.
um, I started bringing over, my first dogs I brought over were 4. And then I had a small adoption event at a pet store in Brooklyn.
Oh,
Then
wow.
I brought over 6 dogs. And then I brought over 8 dogs.
Oh
And
my God. It kept
that's
getting bigger.
how we started. We just brought over a few dogs at a time, had adoption events, talked about their story, talked about where they came
Wow.
from, awareness, spreading
Yeah.
it. And eventually people are like, oh, what's a Jindo?
Yeah.
And now everybody in New York, I think, knows what a Jindo is.
Oh, yes. And they know who Gina is.
Well, I don't know if they know who I am.
But
I
you started making a name for yourself because you were probably among the first people to bring these kind of dogs, like rescued from horrific conditions, raising awareness, building a community around these dogs. And, that's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what really is the biggest piece of the organization's puzzle is the community that we've built.
Oh,
It's
we
not
need, yeah.
even really about anything else except, the the people that
Yeah.
are adopting these dogs and supporting what we do.
They're part of the solution. I mean, they're part of the it's not a solution per se, because it's not fixing the problem at the root, but for every dog saved, it's a huge victory. I mean, that's what I always say. And, it doesn't matter. You can't save them all. You can't save them. There's so many problems in this world. We can't fix them all. But, what we can do, we should do. And, for that dog, their whole life has changed, and it's thanks to good-hearted people. And I'm so impressed that you started doing this, slowly, but you're building it up. And, what is Korean Canine Rescue today? Is it like, do you take donations? I mean, well, you take donations, but are you a registered charity or
Yeah, we're a
really?
registered charity
Wow.
in New York State. We have a
Wow.
charity number. You can look on our website and find it. We have a rescue registration number
Wow.
in New York State, and we're 501(c). We file an annual report every year. We filed our
Wow.
500, which is our taxes. I believe in
It's a lot of work. Yeah,
it
it's a
is
lot of work
a lot of work.
establishing a charity. And so at what point did you say, okay, let's, you must have had to build a team. You can't do this alone. At one point it becomes too much, right?
It's always too much. But my partner, Nick, he is an amazing person. His
Wow.
background is in finance. So we wanted to do everything by the book. We wanted to be as transparent as possible. And we wanted to
Yes.
just really let people know that your money goes back to the dogs, because I know a
Yeah.
lot of people look at annual reports and they look at statistics and they look at as much information as they can to
Oh,
say,
yeah.
is this organization really utilizing the money for the dog?
I know. I think I've had comments on the podcast from, some people that say, it seems like the bigger the organization gets, won't name names, but a lot of it goes to marketing budgets, advertising. And finally you're like, well, I want to just help the dog, but it becomes a little harder to, like see where your money goes, essentially. And obviously marketing and advertising is important because, they are raising awareness globally and that has its value. But, I get what you mean, at least with you. You know exactly how you're treating these dogs. I mean, on your website, there's a lot of information. So obviously I'll put the links in the description box. I invite people at home to go check out your website. You have social media pages as well. And, like I looked at some of the pictures of the dogs and like, they look so happy, like they're so well taken care of. So you're doing a great work, clearly.
Thank you.
And so your partner, did he have any experience working in animal rescue, or was he just, along for the ride?
He adopted Cena. We've been together.
Okay.
I've been together for 10 years, and we adopted Cena together. I was fostering him at the time. And
Okay.
we fell in love with him and we foster failed.
Oh, yes. It happens.
Yeah, exactly. And it was his first dog that he's ever had. So he really felt passionate about just rescue dogs in general. And he was working for a financial company at the time and
Okay.
also going to school. And he saw that I had this passion for Korean canine. And he's like, you know what? I want to help you because finances are not my expertise, but I will learn what I need
Okay,
to
not
do.
yours, but his, yes. Yeah, okay.
And he stepped in and decided, hey, I'm going to help you out. So he
Wow.
helps out with a lot of that aspect of the rescue, which is something that I really need because, you can't as a director of a nonprofit know how to do everything. You rely on people.
Absolutely. Everyone brings their own expertise to the table, and that's what makes, the organization, sound and stable and successful. Yeah. I work in finance too, so I can understand. And often I'm like, my love for animals and this cause in particular has made me question, like, should I, have another career in this, field? But when I think about it, I'm like, no, Jade, what you need to do is make as much money as possible. So I can donate to, organization like yours, adopt dogs, obviously that's one of my big dreams. And, basically support the ones doing the work, and, on the ground, boots on the ground, like we say.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's my thinking. I think I'm on the right track.
On the right track. I mean, this is, we need it's definitely, like I said, a community. So everybody,
Yeah.
whoever, if you want to play a part in it, a small part, a big part, whatever
Yeah.
part you want to play, it's
We
all
need all talents, all people.
exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. It takes a village, like they say. So,
Yeah, sure does.
and so you're based in New York. So do you have a shelter, like a physical location, or how does it work?
So we are 100% foster based. So
Yeah.
when the dogs come in from our facility in Bundang, South Korea,
Yeah.
fly in with a flight volunteer.
Okay.
And it's a direct flight from Incheon to JFK. And then they come to our office and directly, which is about a 20-minute trip from JFK. And
Okay.
we cut them out of their crates. We immediately let them relieve themselves and eat as much food as they want.
Yeah, it's been a long trip, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
15-hour flight, and then there's
Yeah.
the delays and everything that go with it. So in the end, it's like 18 hours for them in that crate. So we want to make sure
Wow.
that as soon as they come out, they're eating, they're drinking, they're getting hydrated, they're relieving themselves.
Yeah.
And a couple hours later, our fosters show up, because we are all volunteer foster based, and we
Oh,
will foster the dog for a minimum of like 14 to 21 days or until the dog gets adopted in the
wow.
home. And that's
Mm.
really an important aspect of our rescue because we want these dogs to kind of learn first.
How to be in a home.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they haven't lived with people before, most of them.
Yeah.
And New York City is a very, very stressful environment for humans to live
Mm.
in, let alone dogs.
Yes. Yes. Let alone dogs that have been already traumatized. Oh,
Exactly.
yeah. Yeah.
So, we put them in foster care for 1 week before they're eligible for adoption. So that
Oh,
really
wow.
kind of lets us get to know them, and
It's a transition.
it's a transition, and our fosters will write a little foster diary for us every day telling us how the dog did. And
Yeah.
that way we can best inform the adopter, like, hey, this is how the dog is adjusting and doing so far. And
Wow.
it helps them get adopted.
And like, in what year were you able to build enough momentum, get enough contacts so that you could have like a network of, foster in New York City? It's strictly New York, right? So if an adopter is in Florida, they would have to come to New York to get the dog, or how does that work?
Well, we actually don't adopt to that radius. Our radius is 150 miles of New York.
Okay, that's smart.
Yeah.
That's very smart.
There's a number of factors. One is that the dog has traveled already so far.
Yeah. Don't want to put him through another flight. No.
A lot. And the other reason is we really like to have the community of alumni and volunteers and supporters in an area before we adopt to that area.
Yes.
Because these dogs, they're flight risk sometimes, and they can run and get lost. And if they're somewhere we don't have connections with, we can't give that support. We like to.
No, that's right. Do you microchip all your dogs? I'm assuming. Yeah. So if ever there's a flight, one of the dogs gets away, it would say Korean Canine Rescue, or with your contact?
In fact, you can't bring dogs in without being microchipped as per the USDA, and that's just a general guideline they have for a permit to get the dogs in. So all the dogs are microchipped.
Oh, excellent. And so I have to ask you, first of all, I guess I interrupted the question earlier. How did you form all these, contacts in New York that were willing to foster, that you had confidence in? That takes time, I imagine. Or
like I said, New York is a great animal loving community, so it wasn't hard to find people that were willing to help. That's what's the beautiful part is, like, we'll say, hey guys, we could really use some pee-pee pads or some towels for the dogs, and people will send it because they are like, you know what, the dogs need it. So
so it sounds like you're in the right spot to be doing this kind of work,
to be able to be doing this in New York, just for the community alone and the support that we get.
Oh, that's wonderful.
My name is Gina Boehler, and I'm the founder and executive director of Korean Canine Rescue. We are a nonprofit based in New York City and in Bundang, South Korea, and we rescue dogs from South Korea.
This is our adoption event where we have about 17 adoptable dogs, and they are ready to find their forever homes. We invite people to come meet our dogs, register, get some information, and talk to our volunteers who would be able to share the background of the dogs, where they come from.
A lot of the dogs that we rescue are either from high-kill shelters or products of the meat market. So dogs are more of a commodity than a pet there. They've really experienced trauma or neglect, or they've experienced nothing other than a cage in Korea their entire life. And so by bringing them here, we're finding people that really want to put in the work and want to treat them the way that they deserve to be treated.
Internationally, there are a lot of animal welfare laws that countries don't have. The high-kill shelters there are constantly euthanizing at a really high rate because they don't have the room to keep them. So what our organization does is we rescue those dogs with our team in South Korea. We bring them to our 14,000 square foot facility in Bundang, South Korea. We rehabilitate and we give them the proper medical care that they need, and at least 45 days at our center to acclimate and become adjusted and more socialized. And then we bring them here to New York City, which is a really rescue-friendly, dog-friendly city. Has a great adoption rate, great atmosphere for dogs, very caring and loving people.
I started volunteering here 2 years ago. Being a Korean American, I found out about Korean Canine Rescue and did not even realize that there were dog meat farms in Korea and how high the needs are for dogs to find homes.
We have a very thorough screening process because we have to find people that are willing to go through the work of rehabbing these dogs. A big thing that we work on is finding the homes that fit the needs of the dogs, not the dogs that fit the needs of the people, because they are very individualized in what they need, and so we have to be individualized in what we're looking for, and that takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of volunteers and a lot of people that are willing to go behind the scenes and process all of that. But it is really necessary to make sure that we can put the dogs where they are going to stay, as opposed to just stay temporarily.
We have a wonderful website where you can sign up if you're in New York City locally. And then also we have a donation platform that we just launched, a cryptocurrency platform on there as well, where we can accept cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum coin, which is a whole new market for us, a whole new way for us to collect donations. We're really excited for the future and how many dogs we can apply that money towards.
I love what you're doing. It's really good. And so if we go back to Korea, so you have I don't know if the word is shelter. Is it a shelter that you would consider?
Well, so ours is really a
facility.
rescue rehabilitation facility.
Yeah.
And what I mean by rehabilitation is I'll send you some videos of what we do, but we have 10 trainers and 125 dogs at the facility at all times.
Wow.
And our trainers take care of the dogs, but most of all, they put a lot of daily hours into rehabilitating and training these dogs how to walk on a leash.
Yes.
How to have recall, how to build confidence through like agility courses, shaping, luring, a lot of training exercises that they're doing every day. And it just helps them build their confidence and get them ready for life in what could be a busy city like New York.
And can I ask, like in Korea, those are your contacts that you originally, reached out to? And are they volunteering their time for this? Or
no, we actually in Korea we have Korean Canine Rescue, the rescue rehabilitation facility, and it's run by our manager Hyun-yu, and she does a great job of finding these young trainers to hire that are really love dogs. And so our staff is hired over there.
Okay.
Have volunteers that also come in every Saturday.
Right.
Could be like anywhere from 30 volunteers that come in on Saturdays, Koreans that come in and they want to help, they want to.
Yeah, it must be a great place. I would love to hang out there.
Invited anytime, Jade.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, it makes sense because it's hard to rely, like a volunteer, it's a little bit, like the guy is sick. I mean, suddenly there's, like you're missing staff. Of course, it has to be more structured, I imagine.
Yeah.
And
it has to be for the dogs, they need consistency and they need to learn how to just be a dog.
Yes. And so you say about 10 person staff at that facility? Okay. And like, are they in charge of trying to like go to dog meat farms, or it's just like people, like citizens that say, oh, I saw a dog, he's a stray, and they bring it to the facility? Or like, do you go out seeking to save dogs? Or
yeah. Well, no, we do that too. But one thing that I think people need to get a full picture of what the Korean animal rescue community is like is it's very vast.
It's fast?
Vast.
Oh, it's huge.
It's huge. Yes.
Oh, wow.
I would say like over the last 5 years, there's been hundreds of Korean animal rescuers and activists that have formed groups. And a lot of them are NGOs, like non-governmental organizations, and also bigger organizations. And what our focus is at Korean Canine is to work with these groups and take their dogs from them into our rehabilitation facility. And then we work on rehabilitating and training these dogs so that and feeding them really good food. Like we spend a lot of money on food there.
Yeah.
Not just like cheap kibble, like we buy really expensive quality food.
Considering what, especially the ones from dog meat farm, they're fed like garbage waste. So, I mean, this is a huge step up, and it's important because, a lot of complications can arise when you're, feeding a dog something they should not eat. Yeah,
we do blood work before they come in the facility, and it's like the charts all over the place. And then by the time they leave, everything is in the normal range. So it's a good feeling.
Wow, that is a good feeling. And so how long are they typically in Korea for before you can actually say, okay, well, I guess it depends on the dog, right? So
I mean, you'll have dogs from dog meat farms or slaughterhouses that'll have to be there for 6 months to 8 months.
Minimum, yeah.
Right, because there's so much decompression time that needs to happen.
Yeah.
And then you'll have other dogs maybe that were pulled from a high kill shelter that may have lived in somebody's home before, so they may not need as much time.
Right.
5 days minimum is usually our minimum time at our center. And but just going back to how we get the dogs is working with groups like Animal Cara, which
yes, I heard about them. Yeah.
they're one of our main partners, as well as Yuomba, which is a local Korean rescue as well.
Oh wow. How do you spell that?
Yuomba, YOUUMBBA.
Okay. I'll look it up. I'll look it up.
Yeah, I'll send you the link up for them. But
Wow.
they're a very large group in Korea as well. And Yuhansa, which is another group in Seoul.
Oh wow.
And so we have about 10 different groups that we work with, and we take their dogs.
You don't need any extra help to get dogs, I guess, at that point.
No. And I wish we could take more, but
you're still like relatively small organization, so I mean you have to can't, like I said at the beginning, can't save them all, but the ones that you can save, obviously you do.
Right. Yeah. And this is not about like us being heroes and going out rescuing all these dogs and saying Korean canine. This is about us again working with the community.
Yes.
Taking dogs from other rescues that don't have that outlet or that don't have that capacity to be able to rehabilitate these dogs.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I like to think of it more of like, we are kind of not a humane society, but in a kind of in that sense that we're in that scope of like we want to work with as many different rescues in need as possible.
And you're helping the locals, which is what we have to do, eventually. And that surprises me because you say, there's a huge animal loving community. I mean, someone who works in animal rescue, you have to love animals, right? And yet the adoption rate is so low. I'm very surprised at that because I thought like Korea, like China, there was like a booming pet industry. But are you talking more specifically about adopting rather than buying, right? Like a lot of people buy a dog, from breeders or, pet shops and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I
Far
think
more than just animals. They are companions and even seen as family members by many people in South Korea.
As a cat owner, I'm glad that more people are perceiving pets as family members.
It's interesting how pet-related services are becoming more diverse.
Data released by South Korea's KB Financial Group Research Institute shows that there were more than 6 million households with a pet in 2020. In line with that trend, the Korea Rural Economic Institute reported that the value of the pet industry was over $2.7 billion in 2020, up $1.1 billion compared to 5 years before. It also expected that the market will expand to more than $4.7 billion in 2027. And with this surge, the pet industry is also evolving in many ways as more businesses release products and services targeting pets. Hotels and resorts are introducing pet rooms, which allow guests to bring their pets and enjoy vacations with them. One resort even provides a variety of pet services, such as a pet school.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely improving because of the awareness that's being spread in South Korea.
Okay.
Again, though, it's not, the shelters are overflowing. There's a high euthanasia rate. There's so many strays on the street. Where do these dogs go? But there's great groups that are popping up all over Korea that are advocating to adopt dogs, and it's happening. It's a slow cultural shift to adoption.
Yeah.
Then you also have to look at the demographics of Korea. Korea is a relatively small country compared to other countries, South Korea. And people live in very tiny apartments and tiny housing units where,
not the best place to have a dog. Yeah, maybe.
Or, maybe the housing rules don't permit a dog over a certain, there's certain restrictions that hold people back from adopting dogs in Korea. And it's not only, the mindset, it's also like these environmental things.
Right, absolutely. I mean, I know Japan is the case, in Tokyo, like I'm not talking about the countryside, but you go to Tokyo, like the whole family lives in a tiny little apartment. I mean, if
and that's okay. It's just, it's about like what their expectations, like how are they going to handle this dog? Like a lot of people just don't know even how to take care of a dog.
Yes.
And it comes down again to like education and reaching out to the community and saying, hey, here's a seminar that we're holding about how to take care of a dog properly. And we do those things in South Korea.
So that was one of my questions. Like, you do hold some information seminars, workshops in Korea to kind of, sensitize the population on, dogs, they're sentient beings. And that's great. That's
I have to give a lot of credit to some of the trainers in Korea, because a lot of the popular dog trainers in Korea will have these seminars and workshops for just the general public to just educate themselves about dog ownership and how to properly care and treat a dog. There's a lot of dog trainers in Korea that are doing that.
I think it's getting there, right? Like, I mean, I think like we're in 2022. I think it's starting. I mean, the younger generation certainly is, like a lot more influenced by, global culture. I mean, Western culture, and call it whatever it is, but it's making its way, I think, in the mindset of the population. Well, I don't know. Would you agree with that, or?
It depends on what
in what area of South Korea?
Yeah. I mean, I think you had a question about the latest president.
Oh, yes. We could talk about that right now. Like, let's go for that, because it was an important moment. And I know from reading Nami Kim's post, whoever won was not the person she was hoping for. I forgot the name of the candidate that she was really hoping for, because she had worked with them. I think they had shut down together dog meat farms in a certain city. He was the mayor of that city. But who won the elections on March 9th, 2022 is actually President Yoon Suk Yeol. You want to say it for me?
You have a note here, I think.
Yoon Suk Yeol. I mean, I don't know if I'm massacring his name, but he's the one who won. And obviously that was one of my questions. I'm sure you followed the elections, or and I know he did not, in his campaign, he did not have the same kind of promises as the other candidate, which I forgot his name. I'll write it in the podcast. That's the beauty of editing podcasts. But he did say that if there was, popular consensus among the public to eventually bring down the dog meat industry, that he would look into it. But, that's like not saying very much. But I think there's surveys, there's been a lot of surveys done by CARE. I know there's been surveys done by other groups.
Humane Society International.
Yeah, Humane Society International. But I'm thinking of another Korean group also that did surveys, and it seems
Animal Care has done it too.
Animal Care?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, KARA or RRA. Okay, so and the surveys do reveal that the majority of people are actually kind of against it, against dog meat, and they feel like, it's time to, put this away like in the past and move on. And it causes obviously a lot of, international outrage, and, and I understand that as a Korean, you don't want to bow down to foreign pressure, and it has to come from the Korean people. But it sounds to me like the Korean people actually want to do away with this. And what would you think about that? You've seen those surveys yourself, and
I mean, I think it depends on, which age demographic you're looking at, because the culture is still there. That
the older men, I think it's more popular with older men. And as I was
even middle-aged men.
Middle-aged men. I mean, it has to be. But, I think Animal Liberation Wave, I spoke to the founder of that, and she works with Last Chance for Animals that are based in Los Angeles. And she was telling me that, it's definitely middle-aged men that are keeping it up. And the problem is, in government, government officials, it's a lot of middle-aged men. And so
just like here.
yeah, and like Nami also told me, she says like Jade is just a generational issue, we need more younger people with progressive views to take those seats in government and make change happen. And there's one thing that is very specific to South Korea that you don't find in the other countries with dog meat, is that there's like dog meat trade unions. It's like seen as a profession, like a professional union uniting dog meat farmers. And they are very much battling this, like they are fighting for the right to maintain dog meat. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Like, you've heard the same, I'm sure. It's pretty.
There is. It's just a response back to the activists. Basically, the only reason why they formed unions is to become stand in solidarity together and fight back against the activists that are condemning
pushing for change. Yeah.
Right. Which is, a natural reflex response to being attacked is, to
fight back and
together kind of form that union. But I will say that the dog meat farms that Korean Canine has been involved in shutting down, it's pretty sad for the farmer in the aspect of like, this is something that they've been doing for many, many years.
Yeah.
And they see no hope or future in it anymore. They just want to give up
their livelihood.
They just want to give up doing it.
Yeah.
And it's not even because of social pressure. It's more of economic. The demand isn't as high as it was 5 years ago.
Oh, yes, there's that. But there's also the fact that the bigger farms are making all the money. And, like at one point, the smaller ones, well, they're being, pushed out because, the bigger farms took over. Yeah. It's like there's some big farms it's like a factory farm, like it's thousands of dogs, and they have their different methods and procedures, like I know that there was a massive dog undercover investigation done in between 2010 2012, and I've had those guests on my show. And they were telling me that they visited all sorts of farms. There were like small backyard farms with a handful of dogs. Then there was like hundreds of dogs. And they said the larger scale farms, at least for the most part, the conditions were a little bit better for the dogs. And they would say the worst farms by far were what they call rogue farmers. And they have the old school mentality, and that's where you would see the most violence to the dogs. But the other farmers are like, it's a business, like they're just churning out, dog meat, and, they're not going out of their way to be cruel. It's a business, and that's the way it is. Yeah. So would you agree?
2010, 2012.
Yes.
A lot of things have changed.
Yes, of course. Yes.
Of reduction of dog meat farms across South Korea has reduced a lot. And the demand just isn't there anymore because of cultural change, with younger generation coming in. I feel like, when we first started Korean Canine, there was a lot of dogs coming from dog meat farms that, from the other rescue groups that were giving them to us. And now, I would say only about 20% of our dogs are from the dog meat trade, and the rest of them, the other 80% are from high kill shelters, stray and abandoned, or puppy mills that have been shut down. So really,
that's a good sign, that means,
we've seen the signs that less and less, slaughterhouse cases.
Puppy mills is pretty bad too, but at least like we're seeing a reduction.
It's pretty much the same living conditions, if not worse in some cases. So, and they're really, like I always like when we get a puppy mill dog, I know it's going to be bad. The behavioral side is bad. And they're the hardest to rehab.
But you know what? We have horrific puppy mills in the United States. I mean, I know people know this, but in Quebec where I live, like I live in Montreal, Quebec, and there's horrific puppy mills, and it's unbelievable what these dogs go through, and then they get auctioned off. It's just horrible. There's animal cruelty everywhere in this world. And yeah, and so I guess I would ask for the election. I mean, I suppose it's not a game changer, this president, but would you say at this point, like you've discovered this, cause, I guess, like me, and in 2016, would you say, because you said you went to South Korea to visit Nami Kim's facility in 2016, I think. Okay, so since 2016, to now today, would you say that you're becoming more and more hopeful? I think you are, from what you're telling me.
Hopeful. That's the way I look at everything.
You have to be hopeful. Yeah.
I mean, I always look at the bright side of things, even though I've seen the worst things with when it comes to animal cruelty. I've seen some pretty shocking,
horrible stuff.
Yeah, just terrible to witness. But I still, at the end of the day, like doing adoptions in New York City, seeing what the Korean citizens are doing in Korea for these dogs. And the amount of people that come out for these dogs to protest Walknall Festival every year, all these things that I see are positive. And that's the way I look at, you got
to hold on to that, because, otherwise we might as well just give up, if there was no hope, right? And so I think, do you believe, because, we spoke a little bit earlier, do you believe we will see the end of it in our lifetime, or do you think it's going to take many, many, many more years?
Yeah, I mean, the COVID thing really threw everybody for a loop, and that the world is unpredictable. And as far as dog meat farms in Korea, I think that they'll be there for a long time, possibly into our lifetime. Again, I go back to where those surveys were done with those Korean people. I think that the key component here is a lot of apathy or apathetic views towards animals in general in Korea. So that's why I have a hard time kind of, I am hopeful, of course. I would love to see it happen. I don't think that it's going to happen in my lifetime. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong, that it does end.
I hope you're wrong. But, I understand.
You see the apathetic attitude that people don't get the connection. So
absolutely.
It's hard to see, especially
a disconnect, complete disconnect
of, the feelings of pigs, chickens, and cows. And I think that is a large part of the apathy towards dogs as well, because they're considered as, livestock as well.
Yes. And that's a point. And some of my previous guests, they said something similar. They said, at least maybe in South Korea, they're less hypocritical than us, because here we eat, cows, and then we pet our dog, and when you think about it, it's kind of weird. It's like, okay, so they're both animals. So one has a greater place in your heart than the other one. But I always say, no, I am grateful that I was born here in Canada, because I cannot imagine, let's say China, there are parts of China that I've heard horrific stories. And imagine growing up as a child and your father, he does that for a living. You see it from the early days on, and you become completely desensitized that animals are just there for us, to serve us. They're not to be cared for. They don't have feelings. It doesn't matter if you hear them scream, you become completely apathetic. And at least here we have some semblance of animal love, the dogs, yes, the cats, some rabbits. And it's important that it is hidden behind the scenes, because so many of my vegan activist friends, they keep saying, oh, we do the same thing to animals here, but we do it behind closed doors. I'm like, it's good that it's behind closed doors, because as a child, you're so impressionable that if you would see that, it becomes normal, and it's like normalized violence, and it shifts and it shapes your attitude and life and your actions. And so I'm happy. Yes, let us be a little bit hypocritical, but at least it gives us the seed of compassion towards animals, you know?
I think a lot of, when vegans do say like, hey, it happens like here, and we do the same thing here. I think the component that's missing there is that it's not such a black and white issue, because a lot of people that I've adopted to have become vegans because they adopted a dog from Korea.
Oh, wow.
And they made the connection.
They made the connection because that dog was going to be someone's dinner.
Exactly.
Yeah, and they said, oh, yeah, what about the animals I eat?
Yeah, exactly. They made
there you go.
So again, it's not such a black and white issue, the vegan debate over, being hypocritical. It's more about, there's so many reasons why people do it. And I think, when you adopt a dog and you make that connection, that is like such a
powerful. It's a powerful way. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm a little bit curious now that we're on this topic. When I started, created my Facebook group, I started a Facebook group in May of 2018, and I was never on social media before. I quickly saw that there was a lot of, like infighting, not just between, some nonprofits, but between activists. I would see vegans like kind of bad mouthing dog cat meat trade activists that might still not be vegan, of course. And they would just like bully them, like out of the conversation. And I thought that was like the worst mistake you could possibly do.
Yeah.
This is my point of view. I said I would try to get into those conversations, try to wake people up and go, listen, this person might be fighting for dogs and cats today, but if you push them out of this equation, then you've just lost a future vegan. As someone fighting for dogs and cats, it's the opening, it's like the gateway to having love and compassion for other animals. So you should be extremely kind to them, and you should support them and what they're doing. And slowly but surely, they're going to open their eyes and see other animals and their conditions and the way they're raised and treated. And they're going to make that connection. They're ready. They're ready.
I think that what you said about like, being able to not condemn these people for what they believe in is so important. As vegans, we're supposed to be
compassionate. Exactly.
Then we turn around and we attack each other.
Yes.
For whatever we believe in, other beliefs.
It's ridiculous.
That to me is very hypocritical, but
Yes, exactly. Oh, you're about compassion. It doesn't show.
I know people have certain feelings on it, and it's you're never going to change it, but we just keep doing what we're doing, Yes.
Well, I always say, I think you're fighting to be right. And you can be right all day long, but that does nothing for the animals. Exactly. Do you want to be right, or do you want to actually, put your money where your mouth is and say, I'm here for the animals? Well, show it, because if you think about it, you're doing a disservice to the animals. Okay, so that dog, that dog doesn't deserve to be saved because it's someone that's non-vegan. I mean, it's preposterous. Sometimes the people, I think they check their brain out before, going on social media. But that was my rant.
Yeah, it's the rabbit hole of Facebook,
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad we see eye to eye, because I just find it so counterproductive, frankly. And so I guess we're coming up on our time together, and there's so many things I want to ask you, but basically I'm going to ask you, as a Korean canine rescue organization, adopting these dogs, flying them to the US, I don't know how you reacted to the US CDC ban, that came into effect on July 14th, 2021. That must have put a wrench in your plans. How did you view that?
Well, South Korea wasn't on the list of banned countries.
Oh, you're right. My God, I forgot. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. But I will say that ban was devastating to
so many
millions of dogs around the world. And
yes.
It most likely killed a lot of
yes, of course it did. Yeah.
So even though we're fortunate that South Korea wasn't on the list, I always felt like it could happen at any minute that they added, and what we do with all these dogs that were waiting to come over, it is to me, I do feel like it is an injustice.
Yes.
To the hard work.
Because of some bad apples and, basically I think what triggered that was some dogs being flown from illegal puppy mills and Eastern Europe. And, some dogs came in and they were sick. They were below the age of vaccination. But I mean, you're punishing amazing organizations, like Soy Dog Foundation. I mean, they're in Thailand. They were on the list, and they've been doing this since 2003, 2004. They have an immaculate record, and I think now the ban's been kind of lifted, but it's very strenuous. No?
I don't think it's lifted, but they did make some amendments to the ban, such as rabies titer testing before the dogs enter, but then you would still have to have a 6-month quarantine period of waiting for the dog to enter after that test was approved. So what's even more disturbing is that Canada followed just a month ago the same format.
Yeah, on September 28th, my birthday. Thanks.
But they did the same thing, and that's just disheartening for all the rescues that were fighting to get into the United States, but having to divert to Canada.
And now they can't. Yeah.
And now they're making it equally as hard. So
horrible.
It's definitely, there are some big, powerful people that are fighting up against it, which is good.
Yeah.
And I think that, I think more people need to get involved and know what's going on and get together
and appeal to your MP, reach out to them, say, this is terrible. Like, you have to do something about this. It has to be revised. It has to be revised. I understand that, you don't want to bring rabies into the United States. That's absolutely normal. And they probably did the right thing, but it was too long, and they should have, invested and put the resources where they needed to make a committee to be able to review the people wanting to fly dogs in. And listen, there's track records, there's things you can verify. Yeah, the dog's been vaccinated. He has all the papers, they're legitimate papers. This organization has been flying dogs into the United States, never had a problem. I mean, there's ways that you can, at least soften the ban.
Come up with some sort of criteria that allows dogs to come in legally, safely, and humanely.
Humanely.
These dogs deserve to be here, and they deserve to be in Canada.
Yeah.
And the fact that it is a ambiguous ban, not ambiguous, but it is a indefinite ban, is what's really disturbing. I feel like that there should be some sort of schedule of
is the ban in Canada also indefinite, or do they have some
I'm
kind?
not sure about that. I'm not sure about
that. I should know.
Maybe it could be originally I thought they said the CDC was going to be 12 months, and then they didn't say anything about it after that. So
I know, and it was not like they made a big announcement saying, okay, you can now fly dogs in, but you have to meet such criteria. I learned it through other rescues. But one of them told me, and she rescues dogs from China, and she said, oh my God, it's so expensive. You have to pay money for your application. You might never get your money back. There's a lengthy process. I think you were saying 6 months they have to be quarantined, but where? Like, you can't bring them into the United States, but where are they quarantined?
They stay in the country, but it has to be like an approved quarantine facility or something like
Oh, okay. Wow. Okay. So that's another cost, probably. I mean, 6 months is a long time.
Yeah.
And in spite of having all the paper, like proving that this dog is not sick, he's been vaccinated, received all his health checks. And yeah, it's really terrible. And I don't know where the Canadian ban is going, but I know that there's organization, a nonprofit called Animal Justice Canada, and there are a bunch of lawyers basically fighting for animal rights, and they've been on this case. And every time there's a letter to the government, I'm like signing it. And in the States, is there anyone that we should send our viewers to support? Like you said there were big people like fighting the ban, but
yeah, I think, actually a lot of California rescues like Animal Hope and Wellness.
Yeah.
Is it Last Chance for Dogs?
Last Chance for Animals, LCA, yeah.
Get involved in that, as well as like Marley's Mutts.
Marley's Mutt, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
There's some pretty, big names and passionate people that want to have that ban revised.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't seem like it's going anywhere. It's just stagnant right now. It's just in place. So I hope something happens and they can get a bill passed too.
I hope so too, because like you said, it's a huge injustice, and it's caused, because I will ask you, that was one of my questions. Do you feel comfortable adopting dogs in Korea at this point, or not yet? You don't.
Oh yeah.
Okay, you do local adoptions.
Yeah, our partners do a lot of local adoptions. And it's picking up a little bit. It's still not
yeah.
Still not a high adoption rate. But our partners do adopt out locally.
And any idea why South Korea was not on that list? Like, that was something I was always curious about.
I think it has to do with maybe relations.
Trade relations.
I mean, I don't want to, speculate too much, but
yeah,
I think it has to do with that.
Well, at least in a way that makes you lucky. But like you said, you keep wondering, are we next? Like, who's going to be next? Next.
That's what I was, somebody said to me, hey, aren't you glad South Korea is not on the list? I'm like, I'm glad, but I'm also worried.
Yeah, it makes you now wonder, like, who's next? Like UK, okay, now we're banning them. Now we're banning. I mean, these dogs will have no place to go. Yeah? So
kind of like, immigrants in the United States. So
well, I'm going to actually reach out to Animal Justice Canada and others. I'm sure others are also fighting this ban. And so I'm going to make sure we have some, links to, petition letters or, what have you, so that we can put on the pressure and hopefully
it's so important.
Revise this ban. And so I guess any campaigns or projects you want to talk about, like, that are upcoming and that you want to share with us?
I think you had seen our Unchain Me Korea campaign, which is really close to me. I feel like the hardest part of traveling around Korea is seeing dogs in really bad conditions being chained up and just basically dying on the chain in harsh weather. I think the last time I went to Korea, there were 3 black puppies chained up in the rain. It was pouring rain, and they had a little food in a bowl, and it was floating in the bowl.
Oh, I know, like, and often frozen water bowls, like.
Yeah, well, I think this was summertime, but it was like a heavy rain, torrential rain, and they had no cover, no place to go. So every time I go to Korea, I see these kind of things, and I say,
they can't even escape.
To get them off the chains,
Yes.
Our campaign is Unchain Me Korea. It's a 12-month campaign, and there's a summer portion where we rescue 26 dogs from the sweltering heat off of chains.
Oh, wow.
And 12 of those dogs have since come to New York and been adopted. The others are still in rehabilitation at our center. And in the wintertime, coming the end of December, January to March, we will focus on rescuing another 25 dogs from the freezing cold off their chains.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Yeah, I will share it again. I've supported that, and I invite all our viewers to support it. You said it's 12 months, so when does it end?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to keep rescuing as much as we can, as you know, we can get donations and fundraising.
And it's fairly recent that you launched it. Is it it was in July? Okay.
Yeah,
well, definitely we can bring in some more dogs and, you know, get them off the chain. And that's a problem that we see here too. And luckily, I think in Montreal, it was banned. Like you can't tether a dog, although it's so lax, you know, I think that you can do it for 23 hours.
Oh, okay.
I know, I'm telling you, often we, you know, like you examine what happens in other countries, then you examine what's happening in your own home country, and you're like, we're not that much better.
No,
got a room to improve everywhere, I think, globally for animals. And I would say some of the greatest injustices in this world still happen today, and it's always animals. You know, like they are the most vulnerable, the most innocent, the most pure, the most deserving of love, yet the most exploited, the most underappreciated, most victimized, I would say. And so this is why it keeps me up.
Look at our carriage horses in New York City. Still toting around people in from exhaustion, heat, and cold. You know, these are
it's horrible.
Inhaling the fumes of all the vehicles.
I know, and sweltering heat, like it's horrific. And actually, only in 2020, I think it became a law that the horse carriage industry left Montreal. Finally, but it took years and years of activists petitioning, you know, protesting, and, you know, I guess finally we had our little victory. But this is one city, and it happens in other parts of Canada. And, you know, like we're in 2022, you should know better. Like you don't need to have yourself, you know, carried around by a horse, you know, frankly.
Yeah. I mean, but if there's demand, people are going to do it.
Exactly. So education is key, and we'll keep on doing that. Thank you so much, Gina. You've been amazing. I'm so glad that you've accepted my invitation, because it's been I'm like so impressed by you. I'm really happy that I got to know you and your organization, and, you know, definitely be looking out for all your campaigns, supporting you and sharing it with everyone on social media. And hopefully you'll gain a few more followers and supporters with this show.
Oh yeah, I'm happy to do it. Thank you for thank you for letting us share our stories, and, you know, giving our rescue a voice. It really helps us in so many ways to be able to like speak our truth and share what we do.
And I guess the last piece of the puzzle is I'm going to get that t-shirt she's wearing, and I'm going to be wearing it everywhere. Oh, it'll be my honor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care, Gina. I'll let you know when this will be released.
Okay, sounds good, Jay. Thanks for your time.
Okay, keep up the good work.
You too.
Bye. Bye.